Welcome to the Dreaming and Doing podcast. I am super excited about today's guest. We are talking with Nicole Barham, who is the CEO of Design Your Wealth, and she is the creator of 5 Minute Bookkeeper. If you know Nicole, if you follow her online, then you know that she knows her stuff. But in case you are new to meeting Nicole, you should know that she's been featured on Good Morning America, The Breakfast Club, Time, Essence, Black Enterprise, where she shares her secrets of helping solo entrepreneurs stay on top of their finances. Nicole, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for having me.
So, Nicole, I know that you are super passionate about 5 Minute Bookkeeper and helping people stay on top of their finances. And I also know that you have a very strong why.
Yes,
And so before we dive into the money stuff, which I'm super excited to talk about, would you mind talking with us a little bit about your why and what drives you?
absolutely. My big wife, anyone who has ever known me for like 5 minutes, they know that my big why is my son, Brandon. So, Brandon is 11 years old. He's on the autism spectrum. And one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur is because I wanted to provide the kind of life for him that I didn't see myself providing if I had a 9 to 5, if I was spending so many hours at somebody else's job, having a long commute, all of that. So he's my big why for starting my business a little over 3 years ago. And really, it's been amazing over the past 3 years, right? And we can get a little bit more into that. But I just wanted to provide a better life for him. I wanted to have him to have therapies that were good, with good therapists. And if that meant paying out of pocket, then we had to figure out how we could do that. I wanted to be home so that he didn't have to be going to daycare or after school care. And we could be at home and having therapies during the days instead of at night when he really wants to just relax and want to enjoy his evening and not have therapists in his face, at night in our home. So many so much of what I do is because of him.
I'm totally coming back to that later on, Nicole, because I think it ties into one of the things that I did want to talk to you about with regard to money. So, as I'm sure you know better than anybody else, money is one of those topics that is kind of taboo. Sometimes we don't talk about it. Sometimes we've received negative money messages. And you get to dig into people's finances and hear all about it. So I'm wondering, Nicole, can you talk with us about why we're so afraid of money and why are we so afraid of looking at our numbers?
So it really is so multifaceted, Melissa. It's not one thing or even two things. It's
Mm-hmm.
a whole lot of messages that we've been receiving all our lives, right? So as children, we may have, I'm not sure about you, but the way that I grew up, money was always not available.
Mm-hmm.
Scarce, right? So there were a lot of things that we could not afford. And there
Mm-hmm.
were more times that we could not afford things than we could afford, right? So that's one thing. So then we start to think it's hard to come by. Money is
Mm-hmm.
number one. Number two is the messages in our society, and if you're religious, in maybe in your churches where you're told that in the Bible there is a verse or chapter or something that talks about a camel being able to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man can get into heaven or something like that, right? So if you're religious, then you're thinking money is bad because everybody who's religious wants to get to heaven, right? Or who's Christian, sorry, wants to get to heaven. So again, programming. And so that programming, like you grew up with that. And in society, that nobody talks about money, nobody shares anything about their salary, how much they're making, if somebody flaunts their wealth, or it look like they're flaunting their wealth, right? You feel like they're bad people, rich people are bad. That's the messaging as well in society. The poor, being poor is noble and helping the poor, and everybody wants to help the poor. And I know that there's a quote that says the best thing that you can do for poor people is not be one of them. Right.
Mm.
And so having this programming, I believe, in society, it really is subconscious. When you get to be an adult, it comes with you, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
appear and you're like, oh, so now I get to have this totally different mindset around money. No, we don't. We all get to take that baggage, right? And exist in a society where we have to now reprogram our minds. Because now, if we're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, hello, we are becoming entrepreneurs to make money. And
Mhm.
have subconscious programming around money and thinking it's bad. It's, rich people are evil. Then I don't want to be evil. So
Mhm.
rich, right? And so that comes with you. And it takes a lot of, changing your mindset, working with either a money coach or a mindset coach, or doing a lot of work to deprogram or to, kind of remove that programming from the way that you grew up. And it's years and years. And it unfortunately never goes away.
Right. And I'm making a note because I'm coming back around to that later on as well. So, Nicole, like you said, because we are uncomfortable with money, right? Sometimes we don't talk about it, and we avoid it. Like we won't look at our bank account. So whether you're in your personal finances, your business finances, we avoid looking at the numbers,
Yeah.
uh, like the scale. Like you don't want to step on it. You don't want to look at it. Um, and so I'm wondering, what are some of the consequences that you've seen of people avoiding their finances? They don't want to look at them.
Yeah. So many negative consequences, Melissa. And I always say that it does not have to be a pretty picture before you start looking at it. Because I feel like a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, there's this preconceived notion that the only time that I'm supposed to look at my money is when I'm making money or making a,
Mm.
if I'm in the red, if my business is going through like a little, low point, let me not look at it because it might, it won't make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
We still don't look at it because we're like, if I don't look at it, it's not real.
Right.
I don't have to remind myself. But I always say that sometimes when you look at it, does not matter what it looks like. That's when you start making change, right?
Mm.
Positive changes, right? That's when you can take a look at it and say, okay, I might not like where my numbers are right now, but at least I know where I'm starting, right? This is my new starting point. And how much do I need? So now you're able to make decisions as well in your business, right? So do I need to increase my prices so I can bring more money in? Do I need to sell something else so I can bring more? Like, what are the solutions? And I'm a solution oriented person, right? Tell me you're a Virgo without telling me you're a Virgo. I always think about, okay, this is the problem. Let's get to the solution and let's
Mm-hmm.
reverse engineer this, right? And so I would say, that's a starting point. That's where you start looking at those numbers, no matter how they look at the moment. But if you're wanting to change it, right? If you're wanting to make some changes, ignoring it will not, you'll never
Mm-hmm.
make changes because how are you going to make change when you have no idea where your starting point is? So, yeah, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs ignore their finances, or people in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ignore their finances, and, detrimental. I was one of those people, by the way, right? So I used to be the kind of person who would be like, let me not take a look at it and it might go away. Like just thinking, not thinking subconsciously that that would happen, but just not looking at it. And I'm like, what did you think was going to happen? Right. And that led me to bankruptcy, right? That
Mm-hmm.
led me to file bankruptcy with 6 figures in debt, not sure how we were going to get a failed business. And I know for sure that if I was looking at those numbers way back then, I probably would have gotten out of that business a long time before it was too late. And I probably would have not filed bankruptcy, right? And I know that because I've now built a successful multiple
Mm-hmm.
business in less than 4 years because I look at my numbers, right? And I know what my numbers are telling me, and I make decisions based on those numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Nicole, one of the things that I sometimes hear people say is like, you can't expect, to make money or to find money if you are uncomfortable around it.
Yeah.
How do we become more comfortable with money and the topic of money?
I would say there's so many resources out there nowadays, Melissa. There's podcasts, there's, YouTube, there all, everywhere you go, you can find lots of money mantras and affirmations. And you don't have to start out believing it, but just being open, right? Having an open mind around, you know what, I could probably, I want to build this business or I want to make this kind of money. I'm the kind of why would I not be the kind of person to make this money? Would I not be the kind of person who has this money coming in into my bank account, whatever it is, right? And so you just have to start with a little tiny shift, right? Everything I believe in just tiny shifts. Any big habit change, it's usually not sustainable, right?
Hmm.
So little mindset shifts around money and proving it to yourself, right? So something that I always refer, and I don't remember the exact link. I can give it to you later. It's like a money song on YouTube.
Oh my goodness, I don't know this one.
Yeah, so it's a money song, and it's very catchy, and it's also very funny, right? And it goes ching ching ching, money comes to me, and it's like,
Oh,
yeah, I don't remember the exact name, but I listen to it and I've shared it with my clients all the time because it's just something, first of all, it's very fun, it's very catchy. And you're like, I could believe that money just comes to me when I, just say how much I want, just go out and get it. I deserve it kind of thing. I'm worthy of it, right? And so these are just the little things that you can do. It doesn't have to be like this big old program, or this you don't have to join a 6-month program in order to start changing your
hmm.
money. And so that's what I would say is, I know that you don't want to look at it, but I promise you it's not as bad as you think, number one. And number two, it will get better if you start from where you are. Even if you don't like it, start from where you are and making little tiny changes.
Yes. Well, and I hope that as people are listening, I hope that they're also taking a moment to reflect on like, what are the money messages that I've received growing up?
Yeah.
How have they influenced me? Like, I know for myself, just thinking about them, one of the things that I would hear is money doesn't grow on trees.
Every one of us have heard that.
Yes. And so now, in particular, like the past few months, this image that I have been coming up with is I just, like they have those actual trees that are called money trees. Like, I just keep imagining like those trees with like the leaves that actually have bills on them. Like, and I wrote down the other day, like a plantation of money trees.
Love that. I
Um,
have two money trees.
oh, see,
Yeah.
I need to go out and actually buy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm hoping that people are just really reflecting on like, what are the messages I've received about money? And how have I integrated them? How have I adopted them? How are they influencing me? Are they serving me or are they not? Um, and one of the things I'm thinking about, I keep thinking about like bank accounts and also scales, since again, scales are like numbers that people don't want to look at either. And I'm thinking about stories about how, like people eat healthy for 2 days or they do like 2 days of exercise and they step on the scale and they're excited because, like, I just ate healthy for 2 days. And then the scale doesn't say what you want it to say because, of course, like you've only exercised for 2 days. And it's not always enough to produce change. And so you see the number on the scale and you feel defeated and you feel really upset and bothered. And then a lot of times what happens is because of that self-defeated feeling or whatever thoughts circulate around that number on the scale, we kind of throw the towel in and we're like, well, I might as well go and eat that whole plate of cookies in the kitchen.
Right.
And I'm wondering if you see any of that self-sabotage show up when people are starting to look at their numbers because they're just overwhelmed with the reality of what they're seeing and maybe how difficult it feels to pave a path forward.